Definitely like the winters better than Upper Peninsula, Michigan.
Yeah.
My name is Adele St. Pierre, and I'm here to introduce to you Sheila Cameron. When I moved to Ajijic in 2019, I quickly realized the importance of having my end-of-life documents in order. I had organized them in the United States, but this was a new country and a new experience. I felt unprepared. Luckily, I was put in touch with Sheila Cameron. She had created a binder for just this purpose. It was called Just in Case You Need to Know. I found it very... I was wondering. I didn't think what I said was so funny. Okay. So I found it very helpful in organizing my important information and documents for the distant future when someone else would need to have them. So it's now 6 years later, and Sheila has improved and simplified her binder, which is great, making it even easier to complete. An accompanying workshop supports the process of filling in the binder, and she will tell you more about how to get organized in a fun way while offering you peace of mind. And those of you who are on Zoom, she will be sharing her email address with you when she speaks in a few moments, and that way you can get in touch with her if you're interested in one of her workshops or her binder. In addition, the fellowship is providing scholarships for any members who would like to attend one of Sheila's workshops, but who are financially strapped. If you are interested, see me after the service. And now, please welcome Sheila Cameron.
Good. Oh. Thank you, Adele. Yes, thank you very much. Adele's done a great job with her binder. 6 years ago? Is that how long now? So, wow. No, it's got to be longer because I've been here 7. Anyway, it's okay. Yes, I call it a just-in-case binder. I've changed the front page here. And see?
The old one.
It's gone through several iterations. As I get feedback from people, it's gone through several iterations. But you know, it didn't start off that way. About 10 years ago or so, 11, a lady from my knitting group in Canada, she said, "Sheila, can I hire you?" And I said, "Sure, but why?" And then she explained to me, her name's Sarah. Sarah explained that she wanted to create a death binder. And I'm going, "Ah, death binder?" And I'm like, but you know, I keep smiling. And she said, yes, it was a binder that if she had a medical emergency and she got really sick, or if she happened to pass away, the information in the binder that she could give to her brother so that he could come and take over running her household. So information like to pay any bills, feed the cat, or look after the cat, notify friends of Sarah's health status, and if necessary, find the will. And so her brother he still lives in British Columbia, and that's right next door to Alberta, where we're from. So that's why she wanted everything in a binder, all in one location. So the first thing I did was change the name from Death Binder to Just in Case. That just seemed a little more cheerful. And so we worked together and we documented her banking information, the vet's information. We found and labeled her various sets of keys, one of which, when I talked about keys, she hopped out of her chair and she went, that shelf that's above the stove, and then you have your vent, and then you have the little cupboard up there. Well, she hauled out this key, and I'm like, what's your key for? Oh, that's for my safety deposit box. Not labeled anything. So we got that labeled, and we put it in her binder, and let's see. We kept track, I wrote down what she wanted for the end-of-life celebration and where she wanted her ashes spread. And also, over those several weeks, she updated her will. And her medical directive, she got that completed. So we put all those copies in the binder as well. So she was happy, and she felt relieved because she could just, the binder was there, so if her brother had to come to her place and run her household, he could just do it. And that's what Adele has done here. This is all her documents. She showed this to me. I hadn't seen it, and it's like she's done a very good job. So all sorts of information in here for Adele, just in case something happens. Let's see, the binder itself, I've divided it into 8 sections, and we write down your information, personal data, emergency contacts. There's also a section of important documents, some people, if you want to notify friends and family, financial information, technology, the whole bit. You get a little emergency card you can put on your fridge that's in Spanish and English. So that's a little bonus, plus there's lots of room to write. And you know what? You don't have to fill out this whole thing. Certain pages have a red puzzle piece, and those are the pages that I think the information's most critical. And then there's other pages that just have a white puzzle. You can fill those out if you want to. But if you don't have time, or you find it's kind of heavy duty going, then you can just fill out the pages with the red puzzle piece on it. And even then, if you don't feel like it, well, that's okay. Just give us some key information. Okay. Okay. Let me tell you about my parents. A few years ago, I go back and forth to Canada because my parents are still alive, and so I like to go visit them and my friends. So a few years ago, I started working with my dad on his binder. And we documented his personal information, his passwords, where do you keep your keys? Well, that's where we got stocked up. Where do you keep your keys? Dad's an engineer, you see. And so he immediately got sidetracked into labeling keys. Engraving them with numbers, and then creating the corresponding spreadsheet. So, this took us, several weeks, so I'm not sure now where Dad is in the process of completing his binder. My mother has refused to fill out her binder. It's kind of like if you fill it out, it's going to happen, right? Instead, she drops hints. Sheila, if something happens to me, I want to be buried in this dress. And those flowered shoes by my chair, those too. Sheila, at the lunch after the funeral on Saturday, those ladies served that old fruit bread again. They must be pulling that stuff out of the freezer. And no vegetable or fruit platters. Note to self, no fruit bread at my mother's funeral. I told her we're going to have beef on a bun. So if you'd like to have your very own just-in-case binder, we're planning 2 workshops for this coming up week, one on Wednesday in the afternoon and one on Friday in the morning. The cost is 800 pesos per person, and I believe, and you receive your very own binder. And I think we can accommodate 10 people for each workshop. But, okay, and so what we'll do is it's about 2 hours. We'll get started on filling out the binder, but we usually end up exchanging information and that sort of thing. It's really actually quite good because people here are very knowledgeable. If you can't attend the workshop next week, let me know, and maybe we can schedule some more times. Or if you want to get together with a group of friends, do that, and then we'll just book a time, and I'll come for a couple hours, and we'll start on your binder. Let's see. Or if you want to, some of the gated communities have a community center. Maybe you can, we can meet in a hall there or something like that. Yes?
The workshops are here.
Here, yes, next week, here, in that nice little room there. It's very lovely.
Times? 10 to 2.
Yeah, but on Wednesday, I think it's in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, right? Wednesday is at 2 o'clock. Friday is at 10 o'clock. And so, that's a very good question. Okay, let's see here. I just want to do people on Zoom. My email is scameron365@gmail.com. Now, after the service, I'll just be outside at the tables there, and you can sign up, and you can have a look at the binder, you can ask questions, you can take the little flyer or my business card and email me later, however you wish. I'll just let you know, my friend Sarah, who initiated this whole death binder, just in case binder process, she did pass away in 2022. But fortunately, she had enough information in her binder that her brother was able to close down her estate quite easily. But that's a whole nother workshop, being an executor. My parents continue to enjoy their Tim Hortons coffee every morning. But I think in the spring, I'm going to have to get back and chat with them, and we'll have another look at their just-in-case binders. But in the meantime, whether you want to use this binder, or you find some resources online, Lake Chapala Society has stuff you can fill out. The Red Cross has their bottle. Those of us who are caregivers or those of us who are left behind, just give us some guidance. Like label your keys. That would be just really great. Just in case. That's all. Thank you. Yes?
I'm going to speak, I don't think just for myself, but for myself. So some of us are not very organized like Adele. And, like Adele. Oh, microphone can take her. Hi, Susan. Yeah, but Zoom can't. Oh, Zoom can't. Thank you. So some of us are not as organized as Adele happens to be, and many of us know how organized Adele is. So finding keys for the contractor this week have been very difficult because there's so many from the previous owner and so many duplicates. Do you hire by the hour?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do hire by the hour, and I really like to do that because I'm very organized, and I love it.
She will answer questions after the service.
I just wanted that one.
And there you go. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. That was the extraordinary work of John Williams, composed as the overture for the movie Superman. Now, we may not all be able to leap tall buildings, but UUs do possess the superpowers of organization and resistance. Today, you will see and hear how we have stood by our 7 principles to resist, defy, and act against injustice. I'm Deb Gang, and I'll be leading today's service, and Kriss Gang will be presenting the story of UU resistance. We welcome you all to this fellowship. We're so glad you're here, whether you come seeking connection, inspiration, or simply a moment of peace. May your spirit be nourished by what you discover here. Today's opening words are Blessing for the Front Lines by Anna Jeffrey. Oh, you rebel, you queer and wayward child, you abandoned and listless, you angry and forgotten, you brown and black and indigenous, you homeless and impoverished, you dreamer, you warrior, you are not alone here. You've never been alone. Not in this place, not in this time, not in the whole of history. There have always been ones like you. There will always be ones like you. We have always fought in the papers, in the streets, with paint cans and with pens, through tear gas and water cannons, in your armor inadequate, in your fear and your rage. You have never been alone. Plant your feet like the 1,000-year oak. Scream like the ghosts of your ancestors. Light your hearts on fire with the ashes of all the dead sons. If you are new and would like to receive our newsletter and other emails, please talk to a member of the Welcome Team or write to us at info@lcuuf.org. And could the Welcome Team please stand up? They're all here. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's visiting us, whether you're here for the first time or have returned and reconnected after a long absence. As we pass the mic, I invite you to say your name and tell us where you're from. If you're on Zoom, introduce yourself in the chat box and we'll read your notes out loud in the fellowship. We'll start with the people in the room. Do we have any visitors this afternoon?
Good afternoon. My name is Rianne Switzer. I'm here from Alberta. Can you hear me? Alberta, Canada, and I'm a guest here of Ali and Ramiro Contreras. Welcome. I saw some hands.
Hi, we're Paul and Marilyn Winkler. We're from Southern Ontario. This is our 7th season in Ahihiik. We've been here a number of times in the past. We're here today particularly because we're good friends with Kriss and Deb, but our very first landlady, Teresa Sandy, is also here.
You have history.
We do.
I think that's it.
Is there anyone new on Zoom today? Michael?
No, nothing.
Okay, thanks. Here at LCUUF each week offers something unique. Reflections from our minister, Reverend Matt Alspaugh, as well as insights from members and guest speakers. We warmly invite you to return and journey with us through this ever-unfolding landscape of thought, spirit, and belief. Our chalice lighting words today are by Florence Caplow. We light this chalice today in honor of the Unitarian Universalist first principle, to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We recognize that these are not just words to be spoken. Instead, they call us out of our comfort into an ever-deepening commitment, a commitment we make to the rights of all those whose inherent worth and dignity are denied, diminished, or destroyed by systems of oppression. And they call us into the practice of looking into our own hearts with courage and honesty. And I will add that in light of the events of the past year, these words are more relevant and more important than ever. Now, having lit our chalice, let us sing these words together.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Each week we come together to lament with, celebrate with, and care for one another in our community. Love is not only at the center of our UU values, it is also the opening that invites us to lament, celebrate, and care as we briefly share our personal joys, sorrows, and our milestones. There's power in the sharing as we hold each other in community. Just a sentence or two is enough. And again, we'll start with the folks in the room, and Zoom, you can type in the chat box. Does anyone have a joy or concern today?
I know we don't bring many politics into these things, but I have family who live 2 blocks from where that woman was killed in Minneapolis. So I feel I can say something because they've been very actively protesting. But the other is to say in solidarity with everyone in the U.S. for what's happening and the demise of public broadcasting and of 66 more international agencies and programs.
I'm Richard, and I post a lot of spiritual videos on Advaita Vedanta, and my channel is blowing up, and I have 9,000 people who have looked at it in the last month and 3,200 subscribers, and I really appreciate the response I'm getting and the ability to touch a lot of people who are looking deeply inside themselves.
Congratulations. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, this way.
So there's a lot of cameras here. I'll go with that one. Hi, I'm Brad Wisniewski. The church has a social action team that met just a couple days ago looking for ways how to get out more into the community and help out. One of the things they are working with is also taking care of the earth. So I said, wow, I can help you out. I'm the president of the Recycle Center that's located just west of the New Ponchos, that Margaritaville. And I wasn't thinking too far ahead with 4 less work days because of the holidays, all the while that people were cooking and opening Christmas presents. We are just overwhelmed and we can barely shut the doors right now with all the other material we've had. So I've got some cards outside, business cards if they haven't blown away. Anybody's welcome from the team or otherwise from 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock, 6 days a week to show up if you'd like to help us sort some materials to help us dig out of this big gem. We'd appreciate that, and thank you.
So I have one. Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Larry, and I'm happy because tomorrow's the beginning of a new election year. And we are starting at LCS every Monday, this month and next month. Come on by and request your ballot. Get in early because it's going to be an exciting year.
Understatement. So I have a concern, I guess. I don't know if they're on Zoom or not, but I think probably not by now most people know that Paul Bennett
was doing something he probably should have left to somebody else, and he broke his patella, his kneecap. He had surgery yesterday. It was successful, and I believe they're coming home today. So here's good wishes to Paul's recovery.
Are there any joys or concerns on Zoom today?
Nothing today.
All right. Michael, thank you. And this candle from our care team, we light to represent the joys and sorrows spoken and witnessed today, as well as those we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. As we know, the work of our fellowship within these walls and beyond takes our time, treasure, and talents. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of the giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. However, as we pass the baskets, if you are new here today, or you're struggling to hold things together, please let the basket pass you by, as your presence is more than enough and is a gift to us. The offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. Please know that each of the 6 charitable organizations here at Lakeside receive monies collected at our services twice each year. In January, we are highlighting the work of Nina Sabias. The description is on the monitor. We take to heart these words by Kristen Collins. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we have enough. As we receive these gifts, may we remember the abundant blessings we have received. May we use these gifts to foster love and justice in the world. Our opening hymn is "We Are a Gentle, Angry People." Singing.
And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry
This is a short video. This is a short video I created to bring to life the visual history of Unitarian Universalist resistance, including those of you in the room who have participated.
We have done so, is it on? Yes. We have done so much to resist. As I was putting this together, I found I didn't even have time to include our anti-war, but trust me, it's there and it's been there for 70 years. Let's face it, things are not going well up north. A bit of an understatement, don't you think? Who's feeling the need to just do something in 2026? Really? Today's service is about resistance, specifically Unitarian Universalist resistance, or what John Lewis called good trouble. Good trouble is something Unitarian Universalist ministers and our members are no strangers to. It's when the institutions, our political systems, and other organized groups stand in the way, directly oppose or legislate against the principles and ideals embodied in our 7 principles that we act, defy, and resist. Today, I'll present stories of UU resistance, focusing on climate environment, LGBTQ, advocacy and support, the civil rights and Black Lives Matters movement, reproductive health, and of course, immigration injustice, which is going on as we speak. So many of the events of the past 12 months have left us feeling defeated and hopeless, especially living here in Mexico. But I'm here to tell you that UUs have never accepted defeat, at least not without making good trouble. Our denominational history of resistance through the acts of individuals and our congregations gives me hope that we'll step up to today's challenges and fight for democracy and justice that our Unitarian Universalist principles demand. Today you will hear of amazing feats of resistance, stories that will give hope and inspire all of us to find ways to be a part of whatever it takes to reverse the authoritarian acts that are now daily defiling our sacred practices and principles. So, dangling 100 feet over the Willamette River in a dramatic protest that temporarily blocked a Shell oil icebreaker headed for exploratory drilling in the Arctic Ocean, Unitarian Universalist seminarian Elizabeth Mount had a lot of time to reflect on the nexus between UU values and climate justice, activism and resistance. A lifelong UU and a student of Meadville-Lombard Theological School, Ms. Mount and other Unitarian Universalists were among 13 trained Greenpeace volunteers who used climbing gear to hang for 40 hours from the St. John's Bridge, preventing the Shell oil icebreaker from getting through. Mount tweeted the experience live. 2 other UUs acted as support personnel for the dramatic protest. Here's a short video she made describing her heroic effort.
This is a personal fight for me because of my faith. I'm actually a Unitarian Universalist seminarian, and we come to our faith from a position that all people are inherently worthy, all souls are sacred, every person who is affected by global warming and by rising sea levels, by melting oceans, is worth fighting for. I want Shell to know that human lives are more important than profits, that the Arctic itself is more important. Whether or not this action stops them permanently, there's going to be more coming.
There they are. Crazy. Crazy good trouble. Our 7th principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part, drives UU congregations and individuals, resistance to climate change, deniers, the fossil fuel industry, and legislation that reinforces environmentally damaging practices. UUs across North America have joined the protest for sustainable energy sources and environmental conservation, with a goal of creating a sustainable way of life, central to our view of a just and compassionate world. This has led to one of the most popular denominational initiatives that congregations can access to support their environmental resistance objectives. It's called the Green Sanctuary Program. 230 congregations, probably more by now since I wrote this a couple years ago, have demonstrated their commitment to environmental justice by aligning their values with their actions by becoming certified green sanctuaries. These are just some of the many ways we are fighting back. UU congregations throughout the U.S. and Canada continue to raise their voices, bear witness, and take action to educate and influence legislation to mitigate the causes of climate change and global warming. You don't need to hang from a bridge to make a difference. This is what resistance looks like. I grew up a UU in the 1960s, and my earliest memories was of our minister, Reverend Lanier Clance, preaching about racial injustices and the power of peaceful protest and the need to make our UU voices heard. He preached his sermons of resistance from a Universalist church that was once a stop on the Underground Railroad. I actually got to sit in the belfry once where the slaves were hidden. There he is. He was crazy. Born a Southerner, he saw firsthand the injustices of Jim Crow South, voter suppression, and the deadly work of the Ku Klux Klan. He frequently organized and led local UUs to protest marches, mostly the members of our congregation, in Washington, D.C., Atlanta, in Alabama. I truly was raised in an environment of resistance. The UUA has a historic ties to the civil rights movement. A little-known fact is that both Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King attended Unitarian Universalist congregations while living in Boston. They both believed that our principles resonated with their beliefs. However, Coretta Scott King said, "Martin and I realized we could never build a mass movement of black people if we're Unitarian." Fact was, she was right, but that only encouraged our denomination to enter the resistance against Jim Crow laws and the larger fight for civil rights. It could be said the Kings brought us into the heart of it. In 1965, Martin Luther King appealed to the clergy across the nation to come to Selma, Alabama, and join the protests in their struggle for voting rights. Unitarian Universalists were the first to respond. In all, more than 200 UU ministers heeded the call, about 1/5 of all Unitarian Universalist ministers at the time. That involvement took an early deadly toll. Two of the first victims of the violence were the Reverend James Reed and Viola Graglioso, Unitarian Universalists and white civil rights activists, killed in Selma, Alabama in March 1965 by the KKK. After these events, the UUA moved its annual board meeting to Selma, where in coordination with Dr. King, they identified how we could best lend our voices to the movement. As a result, UU ministers and congregants actively participated by preaching sermons, marching alongside civil rights leaders, and participating on Freedom Riders with Freedom Riders. UU involvement with civil rights, however, did not just start with the Kings' call to action. It was in the 1960s. In the 1950s, scattering of UU congregations making their presence known and voices heard in the South, and to no surprise, the white power structure did not welcome their presence whatsoever. Southern Unitarian Universalist congregations faced choice: retreat from the South or learn to live in tension, offering sanctuaries of openness in an otherwise closed society. Some chose the former. However, in the spirit of resistance, most chose the latter, an extremely difficult stance to maintain, leading some congregations to resist what has been described as small acts of great courage. These radical congregations and their ministers were true heroes. They stood tall when it would have been easy to just keep their heads down. They lived and mostly thrived in places that most of their cohorts avoided, some at grave danger. Here's how Reverend Gordon Gibson summarized their impact during the time of chaos and change in the South. This is the Reverend. What these stories of congregations, stories of individuals, stories of acts small and large of great courage, what these stories do mean is that Unitarian Universalists often provided early crack in the closed society of the white South. In response to an ideology that depicted some people as of great worth and others of little worth, we proclaim the worth and dignity of all persons. Providing a crack in a closed society to initiate change has been an ongoing theme in the story of Unitarian Universalist resistance. And 60 years later, here we are, still upholding the resistance. UU congregations, not only in the South, but across the country, continue to challenge oppression against race manifested through voter suppression and criminal injustice and police brutality. Much of this effort has recently evolved around the Black Lives Matter movement. The UUA has fully embraced support for this movement. Here are some powerful images of UU support, and notice the vandalization on some of the signs. Yeah. Over 100 Unitarian Universalist congregations have hung that Black Lives Matter on their buildings, including my previous congregation in Dayton, Ohio. Hundreds of UUs joined in the Black Lives Matter protest marches across the country. Our congregations are again proving their ability to provide the cracks to the social norms, making our voices heard in both words and deeds. In 1969, UU minister James Stoll became the first ordained minister of a religious group to come out as gay. He spent the next year writing articles about gay rights and delivered guest sermons at several churches. He all but put the important first stake in the ground for UUs. Again, that critical crack in social norms. At the 1970 General Assembly in Seattle, UUA delegates passed a resolution condemning discrimination against homosexuals and bisexuals. Since 1970 to this day, there have been additional UUA resolutions supporting people regardless of their sexual orientation. The UUA has officially supported its clergy performing services of union between same-sex couples since 1984, and has supported same-sex marriage since 1996. In 1988, the first openly transgender person was ordained as a UU minister, and in 2002, Sean Dennison became the first openly transgender person to be called to serve a UU congregation in Salt Lake City, no less. Take that. The first two ministers to be prosecuted in the United States for performing same-sex marriages were Unitarian Universalist ministers. Ministers Kay Greenleaf of Poughkeepsie and Don Sengray of Bedford Hills were charged with misdemeanor counts of solemnizing marriages without licenses for performing same-sex weddings for 13 couples in Paltz, New York. Fortunately, all the charges against the two ministers were eventually dropped. No other denomination has done more to advocate, legislate, and fight for LGBTQ justice than the Unitarian Universalists, beginning in the 1970s and continuing to today with the Side with Love advocacy initiative, most visibly recognized at protest gatherings by the bright yellow Side with Love shirts. There they are. UU clergy in our congregations have had a disproportionately large and lasting impact on the lives of the LGBTQ community. Thousands of same-sex unions and marriages have now been performed by our clergy over the past 5 decades. We have consistently provided a safe space for couples to share and celebrate their love when they were being turned away everywhere else. These actions, again, have not come without a cost. Our churches have been targeted by hate groups, clergy threatened, property damage, and in the tragic case of the Tennessee Valley UU Church of Knoxville, congregants gunned down in their own sanctuary. But despite all the political opposition, the death threats, and the murders, for one brief moment, who could forget when we finally saw a glimmer of justice, when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriages? It was a glorious moment, and I will never forget the image of the White House emblazoned in rainbow colors. Yet, we must continue to resist. With the fall of Roe v. Wade, the right of same-sex marriage has never been more at risk being overturned by the illegitimate right-wing Supreme Court of the U.S. UUs have been advocating, protesting, marching, and resisting anti-reproductive health initiatives and legislation long before Roe v. Wade. Ours is a long history of organizing, establishing, and defending reproductive rights. The UUA passed its first statement supporting the right to choose abortion as far back as 1963. During the same period, many UUs were active in a clergy consultation service, an underground interfaith network that helped people seeking abortions get counseling and skilled medical care prior to the Roe v. Wade decision. And UUs even had a voice in that, in the original Texas lawsuit that led to Roe v. Wade. In that case, the case that eventually became Roe v. Wade started in Dallas, Texas, with attorneys who wanted a case to challenge existing anti-abortion statutes. One of them, Linda Coffey, thought she might find some possible plaintiffs at the First Unitarian Church of Dallas, which had a strong reputation in the community as being on the cutting edge of social reform. The Women's Alliance First Unitarian Church in Dallas was a major supporter of Roe v. Wade when it began its journey through the Texas court systems. Though lacking the appropriate plaintiff, the congregation's leaders still encouraged the lead attorney, Sarah Weddington, to pursue the case, even though she was beginning her career and was not sure she wanted to be involved in such a controversial case. Anyway, Weddington heeded the call, and of course the case won. Our denomination has led the way among faith organizations in changing and advancing the framing from abortion rights to reproductive justice. An important pivot as it expands the resistance movement to include transgender health issues, access to contraception, which incredulously is still at risk. With a landmark ruling now overturned, similar networks to the underground network of the 60s are being revitalized by religious leaders. One minister in Texas, Reverend Daniel Cantor, senior minister, again, First Unitarian Church of Dallas, helps 20 people travel to New Mexico every 2 weeks for abortions. The group of 20 people board a flight to Dallas, Texas, escorted by members of the clergy. They head to Albuquerque, New Mexico for a day trip to a clinic where each person receives personalized reproductive care. At the end of a long day, they all fly home. The people on the trips qualify by being below a certain income level. Some have never been on an airplane before. Most have jobs. Some are college students. Almost all have children. This is the minister. The resources they have to get access to what I consider a fundamental right to terminate a pregnancy and control their bodies is limited by their position in society, which is why this whole thing is a war on the poor, said Reverend Daniel Cantor of the First Church of Dallas. In 2024, the First Unitarian Church of Dallas announced its grand opening of a Truth Pregnancy Resource Center. This center aims to provide comprehensive, compassionate, and culturally just reproductive counseling services to pregnant women in Dallas. The center is an island in a sea of over 200 crisis pregnancy centers in Texas, which are providing misinformation about pregnancy and abortion alternatives. Ruth McKenzie, a minister in residence at Cantor's Church, was one of the chaplains that accompanied folks on the trips to New Mexico. She moved to Minnesota to coordinate with other clergy members to recreate some of what Cantor's group was doing. I just learned recently that she was actually at the church I belonged at, First Universalist in Minneapolis. Unlike Texas, Minnesota is unlikely to outlaw abortion. It has become a destination for abortion seekers, especially from North and South Dakota, neighboring states that have trigger laws in place. With the overturn of Roe v. Wade, our faith leaders are working on ways to help people access care they need. More models like Cantor's are popping up or in the works as a network of religious leaders that help women get abortions before Roe v. Wade is being revitalized. In these cases, UUs are not cracking societal norms. We're fighting to keep the cracks open. We come to immigration justice. Immigration justice has, in the last few years, become a focus and priority for the UUA, as well as many congregations. UUs have protested, lobbied, and gone to jail in efforts to aggressively fight against immigration injustice. But the fight goes back decades. In the 1980s, the UUA initiated the Sanctuary Movement Program to offer protection to undocumented refugees fleeing Central American wars. Thousands of Salvadorans fled violence, coming north through Mexico to the United States. Unfortunately, we're still witnessing people fleeing violence in Central America and also the Middle East and Africa. But perhaps most disturbing is that we are currently witnessing immigrants who once thought they were safely established in the U.S. being rounded up in raids while shopping, going to school, in courthouses, or just walking the street, including U.S. citizens. They're being detained without due process, horrendous conditions, and hundreds have been deported, many to countries not of their origin. But I can tell you that once again, UUs are there to resist. I will get to the current ICE immigration crisis, but first I want to share this denomination's involvement in resisting anti-immigration laws and injustices. Earlier, I introduced the sanctuary movement of the 80s. And I recall in the 1980s when we first joined First Universalist Church of Minneapolis, they were hiding a Guatemalan family in the basement for at least a year. In 2016, the new Sanctuary Coalition of Religious Communities was established. And by 2017, there were 63 UU congregations that were, again, sanctuary churches, 63, again, including First Universalist Church of Minneapolis. And there were consequences to this resistance. Because sanctuary congregations were breaking the law, a low profile was necessary. Despite the attempts to stay under the radar of the INS, now known as ICE, the sanctuary movement was infiltrated by informants, and 16 sanctuary workers, clergy and laypersons were indicted on 71 counts, including conspiracy. Eventually, 11 went to trial and 8 were convicted, but fortunately none went to prison. All were given probation. Currently, in addition to Central American immigration justice, we now fight against injustices against African and Middle East immigrants. Documentary filmmaker Artemis Jakowski has been working with Unitarian Universalists to build a national action campaign to challenge Islamophobia and promote welcoming climate for refugees from North Africa and the Middle East. Under the theme, We Defy, the goal is to hold hundreds of film screenings, public protests, and solidarity events with their Muslim neighbors in refugee communities. These have already begun. In Houston, a congregation stood outside a neighboring mosque holding signs like, Love thy neighbor, no exceptions, and We support our Muslim neighbors. And in Providence, Rhode Island, Unitarians packed into the State House with similar signs to counter a press conference being held by an anti-refugee group. In this time of rising racism and scapegoating, Unitarian Universalists have answered the call to stand in solidarity with our Muslim neighbors. Reads an action guide created for We Defy. UU churches became active in the effort to assist Assyrians fleeing their war-torn homeland in New London, Connecticut. The Reverend Carolyn Paterno and 300 congregants of the All Souls Unitarian Universalist congregation raised $85,000 and purchased a house directly next door to be a halfway house for recently arrived refugees. This was before the horrors of the newly empowered, excessively funded ICE. I believe they now have a larger budget than the entire Homeland Security Department, but UUs are stepping up and stepping out to resist. Unitarian Universalist ministers have been at the forefront of the protests against U.S. immigration and customs enforcement practices. In Chicago, UU clergy have organized peaceful protests at the Broadview ICE Detention Center, responding to aggressive tactics against the immigrant community. These protests have faced violent response from law enforcement. Many of you have probably seen some of the video on TV, including instances where clergy members were tear gassed or shot with pepper balls while advocating for detainees. Similarly, in Newark, New Jersey, UU clergy members participated in protests at the Delaney ICE facility, where they are linked arms and sang hymns to draw attention to the conditions of the migrant detention. Their actions were part of a larger interfaith effort to challenge unjust immigration practices, and many participants expressed their willingness to be arrested for their cause, including, of course, the U.S. congressional rep and the mayor of Newark. This November, a different kind of protest took place. It was called No Thanksgiving. This is just past November, and was organized by the Coalition to Stop Avelo Airlines. This is a national coalition that includes the UU Side with Love team and the organizing strategy team of the Unitarian Universalist Association. The coalition is demanding that Avelo Airlines cancel its ICE contract, said Reverend Kathy Ryan Starr, who coordinates leadership development with the Side with Love Action Center. By protesting during the Thanksgiving holiday, they thought to inform travelers about Avelo's ICE contract and persuade them to boycott the airline. Airports in Mesa, Arizona, Charlotte, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, Albany, New York, Lakeland, Florida, and other cities were all part of the national protest. And I can report to you that as of Friday, this last Friday, Avelo Airlines contract was canceled. The UUs were an integral part of that effort. These are just a few examples, but I suspect our ministers and congregations are just beginning to rise to action. This is what resistance looks like. Unitarian Universalism was born out of resistance. Resistance to Trinitarianism and resistance to Calvinism. And from those foundations, we built a history of resistance, challenging slavery, supporting workers' rights, and voting rights for women, and civil rights for African Americans. And most recently, we stood on the Side with Love, promoting reproductive freedom, same-sex marriage, and transgender rights. And today, our sister congregations in the U.S. are standing up to the challenges of ICE and the anti-immigration actions of arrest, detention without due process, and deportation. Ours is a long history of breaking social norms across a spectrum of injustices, often at great cost. Today, more than ever, we need to draw on our past, our 7 principles, and passion to engage, organize, and resist. As a denomination, our clergy, lay leaders, and lay persons have stood up to tyranny and oppression and have successfully effected change. As the saying goes, we stand on their shoulders. Social justice work is an integral part of every UU congregation. We have chosen to focus on hunger, food scarcity, poverty, women's health, and well-being. and we have had a significant impact on the organizations we support. Many of you have also participated in public social witness events with great success. The most recent, of course, has been our presence, our heavy presence at the No Kings rallies. But as things continue to spiral out of control, as democracy in the U.S. is being shredded in the most destructive way affecting all of North America and the world, is there more we should be doing? More we could be doing? I don't have the answers. But you have heard through the examples of UU resistance I have shared today that we are a powerful and resilient people and step up when the need calls. Perhaps it's time to have discussions about what we can reasonably and legally do to add our voice and support here from Mexico to what is becoming the struggle of this generation. So what do you think? May it be so. Our closing hymn is "There Is More Love Somewhere." This is a historical song of resistance to slavery, sung by the First Unitarian Brooklyn Choir. The words for the song are in the video. Please rise as you are willing and able to sing along. Today's closing words are by Rosemary Bratt McNatt. By no means are we Unitarian Universalists perfect. We often fail as much as we succeed. Yet even when we have broken our vows 1,000 times, we return to this essential work of justice and liberation for all. We do the work best when we remember what church is and what it is not. Church is not a place to hide. It's not the place to get away from the world. It is not a place where we get to pretend that the lives we live in our particular situations are not terribly complex, often confusing, and sometimes depressing. Church is the place where we stand with one another, look the world in the eye, attempt to see clearly, and gather strength to face what we see with courage and, yes, with joy. Though each church operates independently, the UUA provides action guide and logistical support and promotion for social justice initiatives related to all the areas of resistance we highlighted today. We know from our recent experience with No Kings Day demonstrations that there is a hunger for resistance. We may be in Mexico, but we will not let that as an excuse to do nothing. Let us find ways together to add our contributions to whatever our sister U congregations in the U.S. and Canada will be doing to resist in the year ahead. Thank you.
Let us extinguish our chalice with these words, which we read together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world. Our worship is over, our service begins. Go in peace and with a purpose.
Our postlude today is Standing on the Side of Love, written and composed by Reverend Jason Shelton for the UUA in 2004 in response to a national call to ban same-sex marriages. It has become the theme for the Black Lives Matter movement and immigration, as well as the advocacy for LGBTQ rights, and was added to our hymn as number 1014. Side with Love is the most successful advocacy program ever supported and promoted by the UUA, and is a slogan for our faith, and is the slogan for our faith is most known for. The postlude has the words, feel free to sing along.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together, as hearts beat as one. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Reflections of grace in every embrace.